Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome from Clear Peaks, and thank you for tuning into our Cool Talk series. Our topic for today is the use of Cloudera as the platform to build and deploy machine learning models securely. We will also cover how Cloudera allows your data engineers, data analysts, and data scientists to explore their data with powerful data visualizations. I will be sharing the stage with my colleagues Harsh Desai, who is our senior big data and cloud consultant, and Dhiman Dey, who heads our global advanced analytics practice. Next. Some housekeeping rules to note. Your mics will be default muted to ensure smooth experience. We encourage you to please ask questions using the Q&A functionality via Zoom. And lastly, we would sincerely appreciate if you could share our content via your extended network. Next slide, please. A quick look at the agenda for today. We will start with a brief introduction about ClearPeaks and talk about who we are, talk about the different routes available for machine learning with Cloudera, that is Cloudera Machine Learning and Cloudera Data Science Workbench. And then we will look at the two options in detail with a walkthrough of CDSW and followed by a short demo of the Cloudera data visualization itself. This will be ended by a quick wrap up and some time for Q&A at the end. Next slide. About ClearPeaks, we are a specialist data and analytics consultancy headquartered in Barcelona. We have offices in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Croatia, and later this year, we have some exciting news of opening an office in Boston, USA. We identify ourselves as specialists committed to customer success, and we work under four major practices. One is modern BI, big data, advanced analytics, and executive web and mobile experience. And for the purpose of this presentation, we will focus only on content related to our big data and cloud practice. Next slide. ClearPeaks is an established silver partner of Cloudera, and our consultants who are certified have worked with various versions of the Hadoop ecosystem, be it the legacy CDH, HTTP, or the latest versions of Cloudera, which is the Cloudera Data Platform, CDSW, and CML. We have delivered several successful real-world projects along with the professional services team of Cloudera. Last but not the least, our unique proposition is that we cover the whole stack of Cloudera, including the ideation and delivering of ML use cases. Now I'm going to hand it over to Harsh Desai, who is going to be taking over the second leg of this presentation.
Thanks, John. Hi, guys. This is Harsh. I'm the Senior Big Data and Cloud Consultant for ClearPeaks. So today we are going to talk about two key offerings from Cloudera in their Cloudera Data Platform. Let's first talk about machine learning. Now we are in the data age where the trend is to apply data science practices to get best actionable insights from the data and build predictive AI models to enable organizations take data-driven decisions. Cloudera offers two key products under the ML domain in their CDP platform. As you can see on the screen, we have the two products, which is CML, Cloudera Machine Learning, and CDSW, Cloudera Data Science Workbench. Both of these products are enterprise-level, secure, scalable, and open data science platforms that allows your data scientists to develop, train, experiment, and deploy ML models from development to production in a secured and governed fashion. And now, if both the products are enterprise data science platforms, then why two products? To understand this, let's take a step back and understand how CDP can be installed in different scenarios. CDP can be installed on-prem as well as on public cloud. The on-prem version is called CDP Private Cloud, which further divides into a base and plus version. The CDP Private Cloud base is your traditional, and it can be compared to your traditional CDH clusters. Whereas the CDP Private Cloud Plus requires a Red Hat OpenShift cluster, which allows you to deploy the cloud-native experiences on-prem. While the CDP Public Cloud is available on AWS, Azure, and GCP. Now, CDSW on the left-hand side of your screen fits into the on-prem version, and it can be installed as a service inside your CDP Private Cloud base. While CML is a cloud-native version of CDSW that can be deployed on CDP Plus and CDP Public Cloud. In the slide, you can see that CDSW comes with a master worker architecture. and it gets deployed on the gateway nodes of a CDP private cloud base cluster. The distributed compute it uses is of the CDP base cluster. So we can say that it is tightly coupled with the CDP cluster. Whereas on the right, you will see CML is more cloud native. It has no master worker architecture, and each CML workspace has its own distributed compute, which is why it is not tightly coupled with a CDP cluster. This makes CML a powerful tool for rapid provisioning and auto scaling, all thanks to the super cool technology called Kubernetes. Let's summarize the differences between both these products in the next slide. So, as we covered, CDSW is the on-prem version, and it is available on CDP private cloud base, whereas CML is for CDP public cloud and private cloud bus. CDSW is built for the traditional on-prem deployments. CML is for the cloud. CDSW requires a CDP cluster and runs on one or more dedicated gateway nodes, whereas CML does not require or is not tightly coupled with a CDP cluster. CDSW pushes the distributed compute workloads to the CDP cluster, whereas CML manages its own distributed compute. There's a concept of master and worker nodes on CDSW, whereas CML is more of an ephemeral cluster. One important thing to note is Spark on Yarn is supported on CDSW, where Yarn is the resource manager, but in CML, the resource manager is Kubernetes. So Spark on Yarn is not supported, and Spark on Kubernetes is supported instead. Now, we have seen the differences between the two products. I'll pass the baton to Deeman, who will take you through CDSW in the next slides.
Thank you, Harsh. Welcome everyone to our webinar today. My name is Dimande, and I'm leading the global practice for advanced analytics in ClearPeaks. So as Harsh has already explained the differences between CDSW and CML already, we are going to focus on the CDSW features and functionalities today in detail. Unfortunately, we don't have a live system available with us today to show you the system in action, but we do have quite some detailed screenshots about how the platform looks and feels like. Okay, so with that, let's get into the thick of things. So the first and foremost, just to give you a much more elaborate sense of what are the aspects of data science end-to-end coverage that CDSW offers. Of course, from the aspects of flexibility in terms of what are the different tools and packages that you can use within the platform are quite varied. You can use from Python, R, Scala, and whatsoever with very easy access to the backend Cloudera big data clusters at any point of time. So all these things are governed through a centrally secured framework. The platform is built for collaboration. You can share your projects that you're creating with your teams. They are segregated within containers through Dockers and Kubernetes. The entire analytical pipelines for your end-to-end data science coverage or pipelines can be automated seamlessly. One major aspect of today's modern data science implementation is the engineering part of it or the integration part of it. For that as well, CDSW offers seamless model deployment facilities using REST APIs, just using a few clicks. You don't need to have experts of integration analysts or people like that to do these for you. And nonetheless, we all know Cloudera is one of the top vendors out there in the market in terms of scalability, and that goes into the CDSW functionalities as well. Having said that, just to quickly give you an understanding of the machine learning project flow or any data science implementation life cycle that we generally cover. So what we have is, of course, we require certain aspects of exploration of the data, analyzing the data, what we call as EDA, using any kind of backend query mechanism like or a platform like Python, R, or Scala. All these environments are actually consolidated into one under the CDSW Workbench. You can create your interactive session notebooks and basically play around with your data to find out and discover different insights and features that you would like to use in your model builds and so on. Next is the automation pipelines, or for automating the pipelines, you have this jobs functionality in CDSW, which helps you automate all your workloads for your analytics requirements with different scheduling options and features. And moving on, all data scientists, while doing their machine learning implementations, do a lot of experimentations. These experimentations are very, very important to be captured in a captured and managed in a consolidated way. So that governance facility is already available through a functionality called experiments in CDSW. So you can run multiple different experiments, multiple different algorithms, and track the different versions of code, their performance, the metrics that you want to track, as well as associated model artifacts and so on. Okay. And finally, of course, in terms of the operational side of things, deploying models have never been easier in using CDSW. Just with a few clicks, you can actually expose a REST API for your deployed model, and it can be used in real time for consumption. Now, as part of the walkthrough, we are going to start off with the first main dashboard of CDSW. The moment you launch or land on the main page of CDSW, what you see is all the active sessions, all the active workloads. If there are any active experiments or models that have been deployed, any ongoing jobs, just a quick summary of all the different work streams that are running under you. Okay. And then on the right, you also get to see the user resources. How many CPUs, how many GBs of RAM are you consuming at this point of time? You can switch context from your profile depending on what and how many teams you are part of. And based on that, you can quickly see what are the different projects that you have access to. Okay. And as you can see in below, you can see all the projects that are currently available to you, either in forms of view or edit purposes, under a particular selected context. So context is very important here. And within that particular context, you might have different access for different projects nonetheless. So this is the first landing page. Once you land on this, if you want to create a new project, just click on the plus sign on top and you get an option to create a new project. When you're creating a new project, you can either make it private or public and share it with essential people that you find collaborating on this project for. And the initial setup can also be, you have multiple options to actually do this for. Either you can open a blank project, or you can utilize some of the template projects that are available. You can also export your project from your organization's Git repository as well. Okay, so once you create the project, as you can see, if you go into any of the project, you can see all the different models, the jobs, the different files that are actually available to you at any point of time. Okay, remember that all projects are actually segregated in a particular container when they are running. May it be for any exploratory purpose or a deployment purpose, all these activities are containerized. So if you have access to this, you can essentially secure access to this particular project as well as the artifacts of them and the deployment versions of these particular projects to the access control that you have given overall for this project. Okay, so that basically gets covered all the way through. Now, if you go into the file, you can also see CDSW build.sh file, which is very, very important. So this essentially helps you to run all your prerequisite whenever the Docker build process is happening for this particular project deployment. Okay, so any Python packages that you would like to install separately for this particular project, you might want to add that command into the CDSW build.sh file. Okay. Quickly, if you see this open in Workbench, so right now it gives you a quick preview of what the document is having or what that file is having. If you open it in Workbench, that instantiates the process of creating a session against which you would like to run that file, and so on and so forth. So that essentially takes you to this page where you can name the session that you would like to open for, and whether you want to open it in a Workbench mode or any other scripting mode that you can select there. You can also select the kernel. You have different kernels like Python 2, Python 3, R, and so on and so forth. You can also select the resource profile that is available to you. That is either a 1 CPU, 2 GB configuration or a 4 CPU, 8 GB configuration. This configuration of resource profiles will be done by the admin. So if you want higher configurations for your different execution profiles, you might want to reach out to your administrator for doing that configuration. So once you open the session and what you have in front of you is kind of the file explorer on the left and all the files that are open, okay, on the top. And in each of them, you can see the code that you have written on the left. And on the right, you can essentially see the output of those executions of that script that you have on the left. Now, in case you would also like to run a quick command in the backend terminal, you have this option below as you see. Okay, so you can input your prompt there, and you can essentially find out what's the backend, let's say OS versions or certain library versions that you have installed in the backend. So all these are available in one single platform, which is very, very easy and convenient for any data scientist. Once you're running this, if you go to the left-hand side to the sessions section, you can see all the available sessions that are currently running, who have created that session, how long it has been running for, if you want to stop it, delete it, and so on and so forth. Okay, just a quick management of all the different sessions that you're running. Okay, moving on to the to a very important part of experiments. So we all know that we write multiple scripts for our training purposes as well as your prediction purposes. But while we are doing the training exercises, there are certain experiments that we would like to run through our data using different models, different hyperparameters, and so on and so forth. So all these exercises can be actually written in the scripts while you're doing the let's say building the training script, and you can essentially mention what is the input parameter or the input argument that you want to pass as the hyperparameter, so that you can automate this entire experimentation process. Finally, below, after the model is run, after the evaluation is done, you can actually tell using a single line of scripting, saying which metric that you have evaluated so far that you would like to measure and keep track of within CDSW. Okay, I'll quickly show you how it looks like. Before that, what we need to do is we need to run the experiment, and for that, again, you essentially need to select the script that you have just written. Okay, pass the argument that you need to send for that particular experiment, select the kernel as well as the resource profile, and you just start running the experiment. Once you do that, you can also see the build steps that are happening, the Docker build process that is happening in real time, if you're interested. And finally, if you go to the experiment section, you can easily look at the arguments that you have, as well as what is the value of the argument and what is the measurable or the tracked metric that you have for that particular experiment. And you can easily see which one has the top. At the same time, you can look at the status of each of those runs and find out what is the associated metric that you are trying to track for. At any point of time, this is going to provide you real-time progress on all the different experiments. So you can keep a track of which experiment is performing better than the other. Okay. Having decided on the experimentation part and coming up with the final hyperparameter tuning, you can finally build the final training script. Okay. And essentially you can save the trained model as a pickle file in the file explorer section. Okay. And later use that in your prediction model as well, in the prediction script as well. So as you can see here, we have actually written it to a file name called classifier.pickle. Okay. And what we are going to do is, after this training script is done, we are also going to write the prediction script associated with that. As you can see, you load the classifier.pickle file from the file explorer, and you basically write the definition of the prediction function, and what are the arguments that are coming in, how they are supposed to be handled. If there are any pre-processing required, you can actually add that in here as well. And finally, you can decide what are the return parameters that you would like to, or the result parameters that you would like to send back out. You have full control over the structure of that particular output and so on. So below you can see this print statement. This was just used for a testing purpose. You can ignore that. Once you have your deployment or let's say the prediction script, you can basically come and come to the model section, and you can go ahead and deploy that script that you would like to use for prediction. So a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. You select the prediction file or prediction script that you have written just now. You mention the function that it is your API is going to call. You give an example input in JSON format, and then you also give an example output in JSON format again. You mention the kernels and everything, and then also you select the resource profile that should be allocated for this particular script, deployed script, to run against. Okay. If you need to have multiple replicas of this, you can also set that as well. Also, very cool features that CDSW provides us is, if you need to set any environment variables for the deployed script as well, you can do that. Okay, so these are areas that gives you flexibility in odd situations. So once you have these things configured, you can deploy the model, and you can quickly get an overview of the deployed model. So first and foremost, what you have is, again, the matter of convenience is very important here. If you go to the overview section, you have sample code to call this particular API, either in Shell or Python or R. Okay, and what we are going to do is, and you can also test it within that overview section itself. Input your test values, and you can test it right there, and you can get the results just below that. Okay. We have also done the testing using Postman. Okay, so we get the request that we have from the example that they've given, and you can basically paste it there in the Postman. You can see the response coming out. At the same time, if you go to the monitoring section of that same deployed model, you can actually see the counts changing of how many has been received, how many has been processed, how many successful, how many failure, and so on and so forth. So that's another very interesting way of tracking or having a level of governance to the deployed models as well. And finally, you can also keep a look at the summary of the different models that has been deployed and the statuses so far. You can stop them, you can restart them if required, if there have been any issues. If you want to deploy a new build, that is also possible with proper versioning and so on. Okay, so that closes the deployment aspect of it. Finally, what we are going to look at is the job section. So any automated pipeline that you would like to run, like let's say you would like to train your model based on performance every month, or there are certain data dependencies that you want to create dependency from one to the other. You have different options like manual, recurring, or dependent. So you can create jobs, multiple jobs as well, and make them either they are dependent or they are singular in nature, or there's a recurring nature of running those things. And essentially, you just need to select the right configuration for running those jobs, and you're good to go. And as you can see, once you have created the jobs, you can quickly have a quick look of all the jobs that are running right now or available at this point of time, the completed number of runs, completed number of failures, everything is available, along with the how long it has taken to complete it. So with that, we essentially complete the Cloudera Data Science Workbench walkthrough. There are other cool features like building applications in CDSW with interactive features and so on, which we have not covered here today. With that, I will basically hand over the rest of the session to Harsh so that he can take you through the Cloudera data visualization part as well.
Thanks, Deeman. Now let's move on to the second part of this webinar, where we will talk about Cloudera data visualization. We'll call it Cloudera DataViz. DataViz is a self-service visualization tool that has been recently introduced in the Cloudera stack as recent as late last year. DataViz is a self-service visualization tool that allows you to visualize your data throughout its life cycle, right from data ingestion into data warehouse or into the ML models. The users of the Cloudera cluster can range from data engineers, data analysts, or data scientists. All of them require to visualize the data in some way before they start doing some analysis or they start building an ML model. Before DataViz, there were not many options. There were rudimentary ways to visualize your data using Jupyter Notebooks or Python, or maybe use a third-party tool. But with the entry of DataViz, Cloudera gives the flexibility for the Cloudera users to access this DataViz tool and create rich visuals that can allow them to have analysis of the data inside their clusters with proper security and governance, because your data actually does not move out of the cluster, since DataViz is part of the Cloudera stack. This makes this DataViz tool really interesting, and which is why we are pretty excited about this. Now, CDP DataViz is available on both the public cloud and the private cloud versions. In the private cloud version or on the on-prem version, DataViz is deployed as a runtime engine inside your Cloudera Data Science Workbench. So you create an application or a project inside CDSW, and there you select the runtime engine as DataViz. Whereas in the public cloud, it is available as an experience, which is integrated with your Cloudera Machine Learning or your Cloudera Data Warehouse. So you can use DataViz from any of these experiences in the public cloud. Let's talk about some features of this tool. Firstly, DataViz has out-of-the-box inbuilt exhaustive list of visuals. It has more than 34 visual types, which are available for drag and drop visualizations. A pretty cool feature of DataViz is the natural language search. It allows you to query your data set using natural language, and you can use a search bar to draw visuals without actually using, say, a SQL or even using a drag and drop functionality. So that's pretty cool. There is a dashboard builder, which is pretty extensive. You can build interactive dashboards. They are not static, and you can share this data insights with across teams, across business units. Talking about security and governance, DataViz is part of CDP, and in the Cloudera data platform, the shared data experiences, the SDX layer actually takes care of security and governance of the shared data. Since DataViz is part of CDP, it naturally leverages this SDX layer and allows you to securely access your data without moving, copying, or creating any security gaps. Talking about data modeling capabilities, you can actually go on and create a logical layer or a semantic layer on top of your actual data in DataViz. And this allows you to build a logical layer without actually modifying the data model lying inside your data warehouse. So that's a pretty cool feature for a tool. Now, so enough slides. Now let's actually take a look at DataViz as a tool, and try to create a dashboard and see what are the features, what it allows us to do. So let's move on to my DataViz instance. Once I log into DataViz, it takes me to the home page. The home page is pretty comprehensive with a lot of metrics about the DataViz instance. It shows me the total number of dashboards, applications, datasets, and the total number of views. It has the last created and the last viewed dashboards. DataViz actually ships with it a sample dataset inside a SQLite database. And there are some sample dashboards that are created on top of this sample dataset, and which you can use from day one to actually go on and play with the tool. But what we'll do is we'll create our own dashboard. So on the top, you can see that there are three main tabs. The home page is what we have seen. Let's move on to the data tab, as connecting to our data would be the very first step to build a visual. On the data tab, we have the new connection wizard. And here you can see that we have an exhaustive list of inbuilt connectors that allows me to connect to my Hive or Impala data warehouse, or connect to my PostgreSQL, MySQL instance, and the parameters for connection, or allowing SSL or AD authentication on my connection. It has an exhaustive list of options to give to my connection, which makes the new data connection wizard quite comprehensive. So I've already created a data connection, and I have a Hive and Impala connection. For this demo, let's use the Impala connection. Once I've connected to my Impala data warehouse, I can go on and use the connection explorer to see what all databases exist inside my instance, select a particular data or a table, and then I can create a data set on top of that. Think of data set as a semantic layer on top of your actual data. Now with this connection, I actually have two data sets already created. One is the telco data set that Demon just showcased in the CDSW walkthrough. And I have a COVID-19 data set, which we have downloaded from our world data. To make things a little interesting, I'm actually going to go ahead and use the COVID-19 data set to build some visuals to get insights about what is the current trend of the total number of cases country-wise, or say the vaccination trend for country-wise. So, but DataViz can be used for any business use cases, but let's make things a little more interesting. So I've created a data set on my COVID-19 database. Once you create a data set, you can see in the fields tab that when I select a table, the columns of those tables are divided into dimensions and measures by default. But DataViz allows me to edit these fields and change a lot of stuff on the columns. So I can go ahead and change a dimension to a measure. I can change the data type of a column. I can create a copy of my existing column. So I can actually go on and create a calculated measure or a calculated dimension or a derived dimension. For example, I have a location column which contains the names of the countries, but I know that my data also contains names of continents as an aggregated row, or a row which denotes the numbers for the whole world. So I wanted a column specifically that mentions only countries. So I can create a derived dimension from my location column by selecting clone of location. And then I go on and edit this field and rename it to countries. And then in the expression, I can add a case when statement, which says that if my continent is null or blank, then let the value of the column be not a country, or let the column be the location value. So this gives me flexibility to create, a derived dimension on my logical layer instead of, without touching the actual data. We also have the option to model my data. The data model tab allows me to model the semantic layer. Here, for simplicity, we have selected just a table, but in case we have, which we usually have in a business use case, is adding more tables. I can say add another table and then join between these two tables. All of this on a self-service manner without actually going on and writing SQLs. I'll keep this to a single table for now. There are other tabs. Now, once I have my data set ready, I can go ahead and create a new dashboard. Let's understand the hierarchy of visuals in DataViz. We have a visual, which can be a chart or a graph. A collection of visuals will be a dashboard, and a collection of dashboards would actually be an application. You can create an application with multiple dashboards and then share it across businesses with different teams using DataViz workspaces. So on my dashboard designer, you can see on the main screen on the left-hand side, I have the canvas, and there is a table pre-built with a sample data. On the right-hand side, I have the dashboard designer. I'll go on, and on top of my data, I'll create a new visual. Now, you can see that there are exhaustive list of visuals here, right from bars to area to scatter plot to maps. So I can say go on and select a map. Now say I want the top 10 countries with the highest number of cases for a particular month. I go on and drag my location column in the geo field and say the total cases in the color field. Now, take a note, location is the field that had aggregated data. Also, I've not changed the type of that column. So if I go on and say refresh visual, it would actually give me an error saying you don't have a geotype. Now, DataViz allows me to actually change the data type of this field on a visual level. So you can see on the field properties that I have a lot of the functions that I can apply on this particular column on the visual level. Say I go ahead and change the type of this column to country, since I know that this column will contain country names. Now I can refresh the visual and I have the map. Let me remove this and I can adjust where I want this map and in the whole dashboard. Now, DataViz allows me to have options to how I can view this particular data in different types of visuals. So instead of creating a new visual with the same data, DataViz will allow me an option called Explore Options, where I can explore this data in different visual types. So DataViz actually shows me that this data can be displayed in these many visuals, and say I like the packed bubbles, I go on and select the packed bubbles. The visual changes and I can see my location column containing the aggregated rows, which is why we had created the calculated dimension. What I'll do is I'll change the location column and I'll get the derived dimension that we had created called countries. Now I'll try to refresh. And here you can see the big chunk of NAC. I can now select a filter on this particular column. And I can say just exclude NAC values. So here are the countries and the total number of cases. I can go ahead and add a title. And say I want the top 10 countries. DataViz allows me to change to add field properties on a measure level itself. So say my total cases, I don't want the aggregates to be on sum, but on say average or the maximum. So I can change the aggregate. I can also select an ordering, a descending and ascending, or say I want the top 10 columns. So I have the top 10 countries with maximum of total cases. And these visuals are not just static, they are interactive. I can go ahead and select detailed data, and it will show me the detailed data of that. I can also download this data set from here. DataViz now also allows me to have a filter on a dashboard level. So let me just go ahead and add a filter of, say, date. I will apply the date filter. The relative dates, I'll anchor it to say the 19th of July. And I want for say the month of July. So this is how I have filtered my visual using a dashboard level filter. I can move this filter to application level, where this filter will apply on all my dashboards within that application. So we can see that creating a visual in a dashboard and filtering the data set is quite simple and quick in DataViz. Let me go ahead and give this a title and save this dashboard. Now, let's understand the concept of workspaces. We have two default workspaces, public and private. Now, workspace is one of the way by which we can share this dashboard with other users of DataViz. When I select public as my workspace, this dashboard can be accessed by anybody who is a user of DataViz. Whereas if I select a private, or if I can go ahead and create a new workspace, add users into that workspace and share my dashboard only in that particular workspace, only those users will be able to see my dashboard. So it's a pretty easier way to share your data insights. Now say I have a collection of dashboards and I want to create an application. I will go to my visuals tab, and I already have a pre-built COVID-19 tracker application. Let me go on and edit this. So on the app designer page, you will see that we can add menu tabs, and each menu tab can then connect or relate with the particular dashboard. So for the demo dashboard that I've created, I will go on and add a new menu and select the demo dashboard. So my application will have three dashboards, each having a tab on the particular application. DataViz allows a very fine-grained styling. I can change the way this application will look. I can apply my own CSS, or I can add a logo to my application. So this is how it's going to look. And I've added a logo from the styles page. I can add a custom logo. I can change the font, the background color, and everything for the dashboard and the application. And then I can go ahead and save this. Now let's take a look at my application. I will launch this. And you can see I've created an application with three dashboards. These two dashboards were pre-built, and it allows me to show the total number of COVID-19 cases, country-wise, the top 10 countries in a map. I can also see the trends of the new cases compared against countries, or the total number of cases in the world. I also have two filters, a location filter and a date filter. And I can go ahead and apply this filter, and it will filter all my visuals on the dashboard. Since this filter is on an application level, this filter will also get translated to the other dashboard that we have. So say I open the country-wise vaccination dashboard, Here you will see that the filter has transitioned over here, and we can see the vaccination trends in the world. The number of vaccinations for different countries, the least vaccinated countries based on the filter that we've added. Let's just remove the filter for now. And this will show me the total number of vaccinated population versus the population that's still pending to be vaccinated, the least vaccinated countries, and the total vaccination trends across countries or across world. Also, the demo dashboard that we just created is part of this. And the date filter that we added on this dashboard has been transitioned here. We didn't require that, but because we added it on the dashboard, it is here. We have seen that we can create an application that comprises of multiple dashboards, each dashboard containing different visuals and filters, which allows us to have actionable insights and allows us to view the data. In this demo, we have connected only to our data warehouse, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can use DataViz to connect to the data throughout the life cycle. You can connect to an ML model output and visualize that output. So DataViz is quite an interesting tool in the Cloudera stack, which allows you to create applications, have insights on your data, and then share them across different teams without creating silos or without having to move the data out of the cluster or without having to deal with third-party tools. Which is why we think that DataViz tool is really a good addition to the Cloudera stack in the Cloudera data platform. Okay, so that is from the demo perspective of Cloudera DataViz. Let's wrap this webinar up. From the webinar, we have seen that Cloudera has a complete offering to cover the entire data lifecycle from edge to AI. We saw the machine learning part of Cloudera where it has two main tools, CDSW and CML. CDSW is basically for on-prem, whereas CML is the cloud native version. CDSW offers flexibility, scalability, easy deployment, and security. CML basically picks up CDSW, packages it with cloud native features such as elastic auto scaling and rapid provisioning. And CML is, due to the cloud adoption, CML is the way ahead. Talking about DataViz, DataViz fills the last gap on the Cloudera stack, which is to provide a complete feature-rich visualization tool that allows you to visualize your data throughout its life cycle and share these insights visually across teams. DataViz is also available both on cloud and on-prem, and we spoke about how on-prem version is coupled with the CDSW, whereas the cloud version is an experience that is integrated with Cloudera Machine Learning and Cloudera Data Warehouse. So I'll pass the baton to John, who will tell you how ClearPeaks can help with respect to Cloudera stack and how we can implement CDSW, CML, or DataViz.
Thank you for the excellent demo and summary, Harsh. So how can ClearPeaks help? So we can start on your journey, irrespective of where you are, right from doing a technical readiness assessment of your big data appliance and landscape or a Hadoop ecosystem or Cloudera cluster, which you currently have. We can help you with doing an assessment of machine learning use cases that are relevant to your context and help you take those first few steps on your ML journey. Help you with installation and implementation services of both Cloudera Data Science Workbench as well as Cloudera Machine Learning, depending on which option you think is most relevant. And if you don't have an inclination for it, we are happy to advise there. And the last couple of points is the use of Cloudera data visualization to help you build compelling visualizations across your data lifecycle and helping you with end-to-end integrated ML models, which are equipped so that your business users have dashboards which they're able to use at their point of making decision. So that's in summary how we as ClearPeaks can help you as our customers and clients. Now, let me hand it over to Dhiman, who's going to take care of the Q&A function.
Hello, thanks everyone. John, Harsh, that was really an amazing presentation. If there are any questions, please feel free to get them on board in the Q&A section. We already have a couple of questions in the chat section though. So I'll start with the first one. I think Harsh, this might be for you. What we have, so how do we use DataViz on the public cloud? So the option that we have shown is not the public cloud option, I believe. Any comments?
Right. So, so what we demoed was the on-prem version of DataViz, but we covered that DataViz can also be, it is integrated with CML and CDW experiences in the CDP public cloud. So basically, if you want to use DataViz in your Cloudera data warehouse experience, when you deploy a data warehouse in CDP public cloud, while selecting the options, there is an option to enable DataViz on that particular data warehouse instance, or and that's how you enable DataViz on that data warehouse. Talking about CML in the public cloud, it's the the process is still the same. Your admin adds the DataViz engine as a runtime engine in your CML instance, and then when you create an application, you can select this engine and then use DataViz from there.
Fair enough. Thanks, Harsh. Okay, the next question is, how do I visualize my ML model output in DataViz? So I think the easiest way to do this would be, writing back your model output back to the Cloudera cluster in a particular table that is already pre-configured. And since you have the synced up connectivity in the DataViz application as well, it should automatically get synced up there as well. So this part of the end-to-end coverage is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, just to add there. Yes, sorry. So even just to add that, that's definitely one way to do it. Another way, we actually, it would have been the most optimum way to integrate CDSW and DataViz, but DataViz also allows you to visualize your ML outputs, your model outputs, by using a REST API. So your ML model, if it adheres to the standards of that API, where your input and output has to be in a tabular format, and if that model adheres to that standards, you can use the REST API in your data set when you define a data set in your data visualization page. There you can add a field which corresponds to the output of your ML model. So this helps you to integrate both of these products without having to write the output of your ML model into a table. So that's also a pretty cool way to visualize your ML models with DataViz.
Perfect. Just another corollary question on the first thing, in terms of movement from one option to the other, what kind of complexity are we looking at in terms of, let's say, platform setup and so on?
Sorry, I didn't get that question. Sorry.
I mean, in terms of, let's say we have an on-prem setup, and if there are customers who would like to move to the cloud, what are the areas that we should be aware of in those situations?
So there are various migration paths that we already deal with. We are already assisting different customers in migrating their current CDP clusters onto cloud or onto the latest CDP versions. So there are a lot of different assessments that needs to be done based on what workloads you have in your existing cluster, what products you're using, what are your external applications connected to the cluster. So there's a proper assessment done before you suggest on the best practice to move or migrate onto the public cloud.
Thanks, Harsh. If there are any other questions, please feel free to set them up in the Q&A section. Okay, so thanks for all your time. I hope you all have really enjoyed the session today. In case you have any questions, please reach out to the email and the contact information in front of you. The email is very simple, info@clearpeaks.com, and we'll be very happy to assist you in any of your endeavors that you have. Thank you so much once again for spending the time. Have a good day.